Hey everyone, welcome to the very first video for my A Map to Hope YouTube channel that I started a year ago, but here we are. And so I just wanted to give kind of an update as to what's going on in my life, why we're doing this now, um, and where we're going. And so basically, I am trying to become a paid public speaker and also continue to do my coaching. And my last day at the mental health clinic I was working at was Monday. And I am coming to you live. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. From the APCA conference, which is the Association of the Promotion of College Activities conference. And they're a nationwide organization for colleges to come and book people for entertainment for the colleges, whether it's public speakers, musicians, or magicians, or comedians, whatever. All those people, or any kind of entertainment, um, are here. There was like 100 and some booths, and I think there's like 75 colleges here right now. Um, but before we get into that, we got to go back a little bit. So, about 15 years ago, my husband and I were engaged, and I was really trying not to bring on in all the baggage into our marriage that I was carrying. Guess what? I did. But at the time, I was trying, okay? And so I was going to therapy, but I was really trying to figure out what the heck, why did I go through everything I went through? Like, is there a reason? There has to be a reason, or I have no hope here. And so I started doing um, a, it was like a Christian course, if you will, on finding your purpose. I believe it was by Craig Rochelle. I don't remember what it was called, but if I find it, I'll link it in the show notes. But um, for those of you that are unaware, I was sexually assaulted when I was in the Air Force, and I suffered from terrible PTSD, and then depression and anxiety, and oh my gosh, I swear if you open up the DSM to a random page, there's gonna be something on there I had been diagnosed with at some point. And so I, though, was really trying to figure out why. And so I did this course. And before I even finished the course, I got smacked with a vision so intense. Like, this is the one and only time it has ever happened to me, um, that it was like overwhelming. And it was a vision of me standing on a stage, sharing my testimony. I had a tank top on. I was like really buff, which I'm not there yet, but we're gonna get there. Um, but come to find out that I didn't figure this out till later, but I believe the reason why I looked buff in the vision was because of the nutrition aspect that plays into all this. So eventually figured it out, but um, I got hit with that vision, and I was like, nah, like that can't be it. But then every night for 12 nights, I had that same vision, and it was a dream at that point. And visions are what happen in the day. Dreams are what happen at night. Although technically, a vision can be a dream, but a dream cannot be a vision. Hmm. Anyway, so that is kind of what happened. But then I wasn't ready for that, and I still had a lot of years of torment to go through. And so flash forward 10 years, and I am hitting rock bottom again. I'm about to lose my job. I just had a baby. Like, um, Harlan, this happened like right before his first birthday. And I can assure you that if I did not have Harlan, I would not be talking to you today because I would have ended it all with lethal means. And that dead serious. Had he not been around, but he was enough to make me want to stay. And it's sad for me to even think about. I don't even know that my husband would have been enough. And it was bad. But thankfully, my husband is a rock star. Because if I'd been married to any other man, they would have left. They would have. And I would not have blamed them. But my husband's not a quitter. And he helped me find a therapist with the vet center. I started going there. The therapist there was absolutely wonderful. She really encouraged me to apply for VA benefits, which I did, and I got approved. And then got a whole care team at the VA, who I still have, who are wonderful. Like my therapist, I don't even need her anymore, but I still make like regular appointments with her every couple months just so we can check in with each other. I actually got to see her like 2 weeks ago. And she was like, I was telling her what I was getting ready to do, and she was just over the moon excited. So, um, anyway, when that happened, and I realized, and I had these people that were willing to help me, I thought, I can't go anywhere else but up. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to figure this out. Like, come hell or high water, I am not just going to cope with symptoms anymore. I'm going to figure out how to heal what's ailing me. And when I tell you I deep dived into research in the brain and mental health and nutrition and anything that I thought, excuse me, could help alleviate what I was going through. And I really got, and my faith. I mean, I became a Christian when I was 15, and I never really stopped believing in God, even though I tried. Um, but I was not a good walking Christian. Um, and to be honest, I was very resentful to God for a long, long time. After he saved me during my suicide, I was not grateful. I was livid. And because I'm going to be honest with you, when I went through all that, I literally remember thinking, hell cannot be worse than what I'm going through. It can't be. There's no way. And so I was not happy that I was still alive, but I was still here. So I had to make the best of it. And I did, but as best as I could at the time. And somehow landed a husband. Still don't know how that happened. Praise the Lord. But I really started diving more deep into my faith. I like literally started reading my Bible every day, trying to make sense of it all. Um, I just deep dived into everything. And as I started to piece puzzles together, and as I started to slowly heal, and when I slowly, I was like climbing, like army crawling up a mountain that's just covered in mud. And I would move forward and I'd slide back, and I'd move forward and I'd slide back, but I kept going. And I was slowly making improvements. And as this is happening, I'm realizing if I'm learning all this, I might as well figure out how I can teach it to other people so that nobody else has to suffer as long as I did. And people do not think that suicide is the only option. And so I I started thinking, okay, well, might want to get some certifications here. And so I did. I got my list of certifications is kind of almost ridiculous, um, because I did suffer from imposter syndrome for a really long time. Um, but I have no regrets because I learned something absolutely critical and useful in every course that I took. But I really hit it hard, and I was like, okay. And then I started slowly getting into public speaking, and I started with a podcast. And then I started speaking at a couple small events, and I started really getting affirmed in this. And people would say, "You have no idea how much I need to hear that. Like, that was for me." Or, um, "You've got a gift." Things like that. And I'll never forget, just a fun story, real quick. About a year and a half ago, I was at an event, and my friend was trying to record me because I was trying to get some like speaking reels. And I had everything ready to go, everything charged, everything was set. All she had to do was hit record, and she started to. And then, not even a quarter of a way through my speech, the camera just stopped working. No rhyme or reason, just stopped working. And I was so upset. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm like, God, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you're going to have to give me some sort of sign, because I think at this point, this is like the second time that's happened. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, why does this keep happening to me? If this is where we're supposed to be going, then you're going to have to give me some sign. And I'll never forget, at the end of that conference, this woman, I just see her coming out of the corner of my eye, like beeline to me. And she said, I just want you to know that you have a gift, and I think you should do this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, okay, got it. Noted. And so anyway, so I had started getting into public speaking. At the same time, I had started coaching some people for free because, I mean, you have to get started and you have to figure out what's maybe going to work, what won't work, what are people really struggling with, where's the biggest challenges, things like that. You need some feedback. Um, and I was fine with all of that. But it's almost kind of like I've always known that this vision is a big vision. This isn't something small, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Any purpose, whether big or small, is important. It all matters. It all matters. So if you're somebody that knows your purpose and it's something that you never get paid for, or it's something that you maybe do locally but has a big impact, that's beautiful. But for me personally, I've always known it's supposed to be big. And so that was part of the reason why I joined this next group. Well, that'll just lead right into that. So I joined a speaker group that focus primarily on TED Talks, because if you can land a TED Talk, you can then speak anywhere. And it was a great group. Well, I'm still in it technically. I'll be in it forever, but it was a great group. They will hold your hand on everything, on how to walk through the whole process, have your application ready to go. So all you have to really do is copy and paste, because they all pretty much ask the same thing. How to do your pitch, all this stuff. It's great, but the whole focus is landing a TED Talk. That's it. No other engagements. That's literally it. So that was really helpful, because it did help me a lot with crafting my keynote speech and all of these things. Um, but I don't know. It's just like been feeling like this this is great, but this isn't where we're going. And I'm like, okay. Um, but so this is just something I've been working on, and I've just always believed, it'll happen organically though. But I know we're supposed to go someplace big. I don't know how we're going to get there yet, but I'll trust God in this, and we'll get there. So flash forward to November of this year. And I was working at the clinic one day, and there was a particular patient that I'd grown very close with who was having a terrible day. I mean, just terrible, heartbreaking. And as I'm talking to her, I literally hear the Holy Spirit say to me, "Coach her." I'm like, okay. And at this point, several of our patients knew that I was also being a mental health coach and a nutritionist. So, I'd always put that out there, but I wasn't trying to like push it on anybody. Um, so they knew. But anyway, so I had heard the Holy Spirit tell me, coach her. And I'm like, okay. And then it happened again during our conversation, coach her. And again, I haven't said anything at this point. And then it gets really loud and demanding. It's like, coach her for free. And I'm literally thinking, how many more people am I going to coach for free? I mean, it'd be beautiful. But it would be, my goal is to eventually get to the point where I can coach anybody and everybody for free. Because honestly, the people who need coaching the most are the people who can't afford it. Like the Medicare patients or Medicare and Medicaid patients. And I mean, hello, I live in the poorest state in the union that I love with all my heart. But we broke. So who's going to help those people? And I would love for it to be me. So, but at the same time, I'm also like, at some point I have to get paid. Like if I'm going to transition to where we want to go, I'm going to have to start making some money. But so anyway, so I hear the Holy Spirit loudly and clearly say, coach her for free. So finally I just spit it out and I say, I'd like to coach you for free. And she's like, what? And I said, I would like to coach you and coach you for free. She's like, I can't ask you to do that. I said, you're not asking me. I'm telling you, are you in? And she said, yes. I'm like, okay. Well, also about this time, I had started feeling like a prompting, like, we're not going to be here much longer. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? But it's like every day it is and when I tell you the amount of stress that is building up in me, like the stress that's building up in me is so great. Like December and January for me were terrible, that like it literally started affecting my health. So anyway, so that happens. And then a couple weeks later, I like get this notion again. Like every time I pull into work, this is happening to me. And so finally I pulled into work one day and I said, Lord, if this is where we're supposed to go, if this is where we're transitioning to, you're going to have to give me another sign, because I need some guidance here, because I don't know if this is just me wanting it or this is where we really want to go. And so that day, I walk into my office and it wasn't, I don't know, 15 minutes. One of the nurse practitioners walks back and she goes, hey, can you create a meal plan for me? I'm like, yeah. That same day, we had a patient who showed up for a treatment, and she says, hey, are you still doing coaching? And I said, yeah. And she's like, I'm interested. I'm like, oh gosh. I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, this is just starting to eat away from me, because of course, while this is going on, it's like a terrible time at work. Like my manager's going to have a major surgery. Like, it's just like, no, like I just kept feeling like this is the worst time. And meanwhile, all this is going on. My husband's job is, we'll just say, is not secure right now. It's not. It is getting less secure by the day. And so this is a very trying and scary time. So when I tell you I am trusting God in this, I am being serious. I am trusting God in this. So anyway, so this keeps going on. And a couple weeks later, our boss, it was just her, another nurse practitioner, and me in the office. And she comes up and she said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you two girls." She said, "I had a dream that you two stabbed me in the back." And of course, the nurse practitioner is just dying laughing. And she's like, "Oh, come on, Kim, you know better than that." And I, meanwhile, am like starting to sweat and trying to like fake a laugh and a smile because I am dying. I'm like, "What?" And I'm thinking, I don't want to stab her in the back. Like, oh my gosh. And so as soon as she left, I went into that nurse practitioner's office and I like broke down crying because at this point I have got to tell somebody because I feel like I am going to erupt. And thankfully I work with, I worked with all Christians and it was great. But so I'm telling her what's going on and she's like, just tell her exactly what you told me. You know, she's super understanding and you know she'll be supportive. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a drink of water. But so she says this and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. I said, well, you know what? I need to talk to my husband about this first before I make any kind of decision or anything like that. And so I tell my husband that weekend and he's just like, okay. And so I'm like, okay, so that's done. But I'm still like just really struggling. Well, the next day, my boss comes up to me and she's like, I just want you to know God's got you on my heart and I prayed for you this morning. She gave me a big hug. Same thing. My mother in law texts me and she says, God put you on my heart. I just wanted to let you know I prayed for you this morning. Okay. Well, so I just keep throwing objections. I mean, just objection after objection at God. Like, well, I can't because of this. I can't because of that. And he would just. And finally, my last objection was like, well, how am I going to pay my student loans? Because I'm still paying on student loans for a degree I didn't get. And because the reason that whole happened is because the college I was going to lost their accreditation. They were like, I basically felt like I got scammed. Well, borrower's defense had come up at that point, and it was basically like, if you believe that you were led to, like, basically you were lied to at your university, you could apply for borrower's defense, but you had to be able to prove it. When I could prove it, that had been 10 years. Like, I didn't still have emails. I didn't have any of that stuff. And I thought, man, that would have been nice. And so this is the last objection I give to God. And I kid you not, I check my email that night before bed and I have an email from the Department of Education. And I'm like, I click on it and it tells me that the university that I had gone to, they had done an investigation and they sued them for $72 million and all my student loans were going to be forgiven and everything that I had paid on them, they were going to give back to me. $10,000, by the way. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And so I was like, okay, I have to tell them. I've got to tell them. And so I did. And of course, they were super supportive. And I said, I'm not working out. I'm not setting a date. I'll work as long as you need me to. I'd like to train the next replacement because I unfortunately had a job that, like, the office manager was like the only one that really had any idea how to do it. And there's a lot of nuance with it. And so I really wanted to train the next person. So, well, flash forward to, oh no. And then this just gets crazier and crazier. So then the next day after that, it was either the next day or the day after, it was within 3 days after I told them, I get a notification or a message on Facebook Messenger that I have been selected to apply for this speaker bureau. And I'm like, it's like invitation only. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I apply, I get selected, and then they tell me, great, okay, we're going to have this incubator. That's what they call it. It's like a 4-day, basically like 4 hours each day, um, of everything that it goes through. Like they primarily focus on college campuses. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a perfect demographic for me. And I'm like, huh, okay. So I do this. They have 100 people apply, and then they weed it down to 20. And if you're selected, then you get to be a part of this bureau. And then on top of that, they'll select 3 people for the Ivy League tour. And the only thing with the Ivy League tour is that you don't get paid for Ivy League schools because unfortunately they feel like you should just be privileged enough to come to their campus. She's like, we're really trying to work on changing that, but here we go. But anyway, so I'm doing this and it's like super intense, but I'm listening. She's like randomly calling on people to like share their kind of story and what they speak about and things like that. And so I'm listening. And meanwhile, this is happening on work hours. So I'm like, I have to tell them, like, by the way, I want to have an earbud in. But I still had patients I had to take care of. So um, I started freaking out because she's like randomly calling on somebody. Like, and I'm like, what if she randomly calls on me and I'm with a patient? Like, I'm like, I can't do this. And so I sent them a message and asked them if they could call on me on like, I think it was Wednesday. And at lunch when it was my lunchtime. And they're like, yeah, we'll do our best. We've got 2 other like advisors that are speaking first. And as soon as they're done, we'll call on you. Well, by the time lunch is over, I still haven't been called on. And I'm like, crap. And so I'm like running to Ashley and I'm like, this is what's going on. Cause I hadn't even got to tell her all this. I had just gotten to tell our main boss. And so I'm like, this is what's happening. Like, if I text you, I need you. Can you just run over there and be on the lookout for all the patients and all the stuff? And I'll run into the old therapist office. And she's like, yeah, okay. So I had my text ready to go. Well, she finally calls on me at like 1:30. And so I sent the text and I went in there and I was prepared. Like I noticed, like I started paying attention to all the questions that she was asking people. And so the first thing that she asked was, what are you the best in the world at? Well, I was prepared. And so I told her that I was the best in the world at inspiring hope. And I told her exactly why I'm the best in the world at inspiring hope. And then I went through my whole story. And she immediately was like, oh my gosh, I can think of all these workshops we could do, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, okay, this went pretty well. She talked to me for like 50 minutes. So I'm like, this is good. I mean, and she pretty much talked to everybody about that too. But a lot of people didn't even have their keynote fleshed out. I do. And so I'm feeling pretty good about this. Well, I had already had, because you had to set up an interview time. It was like a 90-minute interview time for some time after that. And so mine was scheduled for the following week. Now, mind you, we are leaving Thursday night to go skiing. And I'm like, okay. And I'm kind of like a little sad because my interview was so far back because I was like, man, if they're only picking 20 people and there's 100 of us, like by the time they get to me, they might have every slot filled. Well, on Thursday, after our last incubator, I get a text message that says, hey, we'd like to bump up your interview to tomorrow at 1:00. Okay, great. But then at the same time, I'm going to be on the slip. So my husband and I went out that following morning. We went skiing for a little bit, came back. He was going to be doing a call with somebody too. And so we came back, we skied for a couple hours, came back, and then I did my meeting. And I think it was 15 minutes in and she offered me. And I was like, well, yes, of course I want to do it. And so I was just like, okay, well, here we go. And so here we are now, which thankfully we have like weekly calls. They help with like grant writing, applying for grants to get money for this, because a lot of this, I mean, the travel, especially these conferences, you're paying for. And so, and a lot of with these schools and stuff, some of them will pay for travel fees, some of them will not. But it's, you know, something though, but I mean, the grants help. So you can apply for grants. Some of them are 500, some of them are 25,000. So they do help with that, and it's great. That's been really insightful. That's been my favorite part. Um, but yeah, it's expensive right now, and like I said, with my husband's job, this is a scary time. It's exciting. It's so exciting because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but it's also really scary. But I'm trusting God for all this, and this event that I'm at right now, um, it is a lot, but there is some really awesome people that are also in the Speakers Bureau. I mean, one of which, I mean, she's worked with Oprah. So, I mean, when I tell you there's some really awesome people whose brains I could pick, like, it's been so cool. And it's been really fun interacting with the students, listening to their stories, meeting other speakers and things like that. And I don't know that I'll actually even get booked for anything, because technically I am technically an observer. So like I don't get to speak on the main stage or anything like that. I don't get to do what they call a showcase. But like tomorrow morning I'm speaking on we have our own mini stage. So we'll see. I've had a couple that are potentially interested in booking me, but I'm working on that. So if I get a booking from this, that would be amazing. If I don't, that's okay. We've got other events coming up. And in the meantime, too, we also list opportunities on our group all the time, too, but for people who are looking for speakers that they can't fill. And so it's really, really exciting. But my 3 to 5 year plan or hope is that, no, you know what? I'm going to call it a plan, is that I will be making so much money from speaking that not only will I be able to coach people for free, like my dream, but I will also make enough money to retire my husband so that we can do this as a family. And, whenever I get booked for at colleges, obviously I'm going to bring my family with me. And yeah, that's the plan. I'm writing a book. I am diving headfirst into all this, and I want to take you guys with me. And so tomorrow I plan on getting some more footage of what it's like to be at these events. So if you have any idea, or so if you're interested in doing something like this, I give you kind of some behind the scenes stuff, and then I'll try to get some students on here and interact. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's exhausting though. I did not know that you could get this exhausted by talking to people and watching other people talk or perform. We do a lot of sitting, and then we are on our feet for an hour twice a day at what they call an exhibit hall, which is basically where you are at your booth, and then people come around and talk to you, and you ask them what they're looking for, um, things like that. And that's where you try to sell yourself to get booked. So I am learning a lot from the other speakers, and it has been fascinating. And one thing I do know is that I'm going to have to niche down a little bit more, because there is a ton of people who speak on mental health, which is awesome. That is a good thing. And everybody kind of has their own way of doing it. And, but I want to get more specific. And so, because I really want to focus on suicide prevention and generating hope. And so, obviously, my business is called A Map to Hope. So, but yeah, I've had to create a whole business for this, and they've helped me with all of that. And it's been amazing. And where this company is different from the TED Talk company that I was working with, or Speaker Bureau, if you will, is that they don't hold your hand with a lot of this stuff. Although they do walk you through some stuff, but they're going to get you booked. Like they're going to get you booked. And it's a lot of the women in charts already said, I will get you a tech doc. Like we will get there. And they believe in us and they believe in me. She's already actually tried to get me to go to Yale in May, but Mama Bear can't afford that yet. So, because it's going to cost to be a part of the Ivy League speaker groups, like a lot of money. So, we're not there yet. So, I had to turn that down. I was really sad. But she's like, we want you. We believe in you. And that feels so good. And so I hope that I get to do just basically like a 10-minute talk on a mini stage where there may be 5 students. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to get more more footage for my demo reel. So that's going to help. Plus, you never know. There could be one student who's like, sold, we want you. So, hey, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But I'm over the moon excited. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. And I wasn't going to do this, but I would really appreciate it. And don't feel obligated, but I would really, really appreciate it if one, you guys would subscribe to the channel because I got to build this up. I'd like to eventually get to the point where I have some enough subscribers that I'm earning some money from it. Because our future is so uncertain right now. And also, if I'm going to put my buy me a coffee link down below, if you would, if you feel sorry, I'm just dancing around this, but if you feel like you believe in what I'm doing and that you'd like to support me, if you would donate some money to help me get started, I would really appreciate it because I spent a lot of money for this weekend. I'm probably going to Canada and I may be going to St. Paul next month in April and then Canada in June. And that will be my big one. Just because I'm getting started. And like I said, a lot of this you're paying for up front. And then even when you get booked, you're not getting paid for 30, 60, 90 days after you do the event. So if you feel encouraged to do so, but again, this is not a high pressured sale at all. But if you would like to support what I'm doing, you can donate with the Buy Me a Coffee link that I put below. I would be eternally grateful. It's really hard to ask for money, but hopefully someday I will be able to gift you all with something amazing. And I appreciate anybody who watched this. You guys are incredible. I appreciate everybody that has been with me and supported me and who encourages me. And I'm really grateful. And one of the things that was a huge catalyst in me overcoming my mental health challenges was finding my faith again. And it's been the biggest blessing in my life, reading my Bible every day, talking to God every day. That alone, it's one of the biggest things that has helped me overcome my mental health challenges. And that nutrition, nutrition, it affects everything, people. Everything, every area of your life. And so if I encourage you to do anything, get rid of the crap. You don't have to follow any specific diet to get started. Shop on the outside of the aisles. Buy single ingredient foods. It's really, you would be surprised by just cutting out sugar and processed crap how much your health, overall health, would improve. It's mind-boggling. It is literally mind-boggling. But you don't know until you do it. So I would encourage you to do that. And community, finding people who understand what you've gone through or going through, finding people that support you. I mean, my church family's been incredible. Those are 3 major things that can make a huge difference in the mental health game in your life. So I wanted to leave you with that. But I appreciate you all so much. And I can't wait to show you what tomorrow's like, and maybe introduce you to some people that are in my speaker bureau too that are just awesome. And I love my family and their support, and I love all of you. So I hope you have a great day, and hey, I'll see you in the next video. So bye.